the thing I want to make sure I'm very clear about is that balance has to come from your own internal condition. And if you're not steady in your system, then you're going to act out with burnout behavior. That's all your own stuff. And so when you heal those patterns, you can be mad busy like I am right now, but still be.
What's one of the most important mindset shifts that we could make that will benefit us the most?
Self-compassion. We spend most of our days in this storyline of, oh, I fucked that up, or, judging ourselves or comparing ourselves, or feeling bad about the ways that we didn't show up the best we could, or thinking we have so much more to do, overworking, overwhelm, burnout. What if we just spent our days leading our life through the lens of self-compassion? That would be really different. If I was trying to, be in my workaholic mode that I've recovered from, I would have been like showing up to this really exhausted, really burnt out, like, okay, man, I got to get going. But instead, I'm really loving and compassionate and courageous and confident. And I just lean into that feeling every day. And that self-compassion is like, okay, you need to shorten that podcast later. Okay, do it. 15 minutes. You need an extra 15 minutes, like whatever it is. That level of thinking and treating myself has been radically transformational.
I agree. And I think entrepreneurs are more guilty of this than anyone else. I think as entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur, you get this, is we take on our clients' problems at times as well, right? So we have our own problems, and then we go to bed taking on our clients' problems, and we carry a lot of baggage with us that our clients don't even realize that we take on. But when you're the head of the business, there's a lot of fires that you're dealing with. There's a lot of responsibility that you have. How do you then balance that, right? How do you balance that? I need to take this on. I need to be the leader. I need to be hardworking. I need to do all this, but then have that almost like that inner peace type of moment.
Yeah. Well, read the book. I joke, but it's true. I mean, this book is absolutely effective for anyone who in any way is taking on that pressure. But what I would say is, whatever we take on from others, or the expectation that others have of us, isn't actually going to benefit them. There's no amount of our suffering that's going to benefit your client or your partner or your child or anything. So the more that you work on this is for any human, but let's speak directly to the entrepreneur right now. The more personal growth work that you do to clean up the shit from your past and to reprocess how you can be steady and calm and feel safer in your body in the present, the better employer you'll be, the better you will be for your clients. You won't be as reactive. You won't be burnt out. You'll have clear boundaries. You'll have clear boundaries that don't make you look like an asshole. Do you know what I mean? Like, the difference between clear boundaries. Yeah, it starts with you. Because, I work with so many independent contractors, and it's funny because I got on with you just now and I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, let me tell you a bit more about your work. I was like, oh, I want to interview you. And it wasn't because like I had this like long list of why from Molly, which I'm sure she'll give me anyway, or because I'd done so much research on you. I'm just literally jumping in from podcast to podcast right now. Forgive me. But because of your vibe, I was like, oh, this guy's confident. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. And that is what I call your super attractor power. And so I don't know necessarily if you've done a lot of transformational work or anything, but I do get a sense that you have a connection to your own confidence. And that's a quality that I think only comes with some inner work and some awareness.
Do you think there is, and thank you for those kind words, but do you think there is balance? Like I was talking to Randy Zuckerberg about this, and she was saying there's no such thing as this balance, right? It's lopsided. You have to deal with certain moments, and there's some moments you're more in work, and some moments you have more of that inner peace, and you have to find those times. Do you think there is absolutely that work life and that spiritual balance?
Yeah, 100,000%. Listen, I've lived both sides of it, so I can say yes. But the balance, and this is going to sound heady, but I really mean this. This isn't just some spiritual mumbo jumbo. My cat's crying outside, my kitten. I might have to let her in. Here, let her in. But the thing I want to make sure I'm very clear about is that balance has to come from your own internal condition. Come in, girl. And if you're not steady in your system, then you're gonna act out with workaholic behavior, burnout behavior. That's all your own stuff. You're running from an impermissible feeling that you haven't worked out. You're running from a reactivity that you haven't healed, or a belief system about yourself that you haven't healed. And so when you heal those patterns, you can be mad busy like I am right now, but still be balanced. Because I've healed a lot of those storylines from my past, I don't feel inadequate if I'm not overworking myself. I don't feel like I can't get it done. And I also know that I can care for myself along the way.
When you started putting yourself out there and talking about your story, I think in my line of work, I see a lot of people who are afraid of putting themselves out there, whether it's imposter syndrome or probably the number one factor is fear of being judged, right, by others, especially on social media. Um, what advice do you have for the listeners who are feeling that way? They think they have a message to put out on social media, but they don't want, they either their fear of the zero people show up to watch their live, or the imposter syndrome, or their fear of being judged.
If you're not showing up authentically you in a safe, steady, grounded seat of who you are, then people are going to know. It's just not going to work. And people would often say to me, like, why do you think you're so successful? Why do you think that people are reading your books or watching your videos or listening to your podcast? Because I am grounded in who I am. I'm speaking from my own authentic truth. And if something I'm not ready to speak about, I won't touch it. I won't speak of it. I've been in this field for 16 years. And if you will listen to one of my talks from a decade ago, you'll feel the same authentic connection, but you might not hear as deep or vulnerable of a story because I wasn't there then. I was in a different story then. But the authenticity is there because I was teaching from where I am. So teach from where you are. Don't pretend to be somewhere else. Because the moment that you notice yourself like being anybody but you've lost the audience.
In your line of work, when you're dealing with people, where do you find most people get stuck? And you talked about this. I think you talked about like the patterns that keep them unhappy in that loop that they stay in. What's the most common pattern, and where do you find most people end up being stuck?
I think people get stuck with fear. Fear is, particularly in entrepreneurial settings, fear is often a driver, but it's also a block. So the way that it's driving you is a unbalanced, extreme way. So maybe you think, okay, my fear is why I have this edge. But what if you could just soften that edge? You could still get a lot more done, probably way more done. And so fear, when it's driving the show, is actually blocking you from attracting what it is that you really want, because it's like a really frantic energy. And so it's deflecting the clients, it's deflecting your own stamina. It's taking a toll on your body. And the fears that we carry into our careers and into our life and into our relationships are unresolved from our childhood. They're unresolved experiences. You can call, I refer to them as trauma with a big T, trauma with a small t. Trauma with a small t that affected my career was when I was in 6th grade. A boy told me I was stupid, and I just took that storyline on. And
it's amazing what we hold on to, eh?
It's incredible. And I went on and on and on for years with that storyline, only until really recently. It almost held me back from writing my first book. And then it also gave me a lot of momentum too, because I was like, I'm going to prove myself to the fucking world, so it had value, but not in a good, non-extreme way. Now it has great value because I've gotten myself back to a place of reprocessing that fear. And now in order to write this book, I had to do a tremendous amount of research. I got trained in a therapeutic system recently that I fell in love with, that supported me, and I write about in the book. And so I'm doing things in my education that I'd never done before because of that recovery.